Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this afternoon's webinar on Cyber Essentials, preparing for changes to the scheme. I am joined by an amazing panel this afternoon, who I'm just about to introduce you to now. So without further ado, this is me, Sophie Sayer, Sales Director at ITG, now known as a GRC Solutions Company. We've just gone through a rebranding exercise, so some of you might be seeing this for the first time, which is really exciting. I've been with the group for nearly 15 years. I started out in a sales exec role in the publishing division, so we have a whole division dedicated to publishing books and tools, and then worked my way up through the channel partner team. So welcome this afternoon to any channel partners listening. I have tried to share the link with you all as much as I can, because I know Cyber Essentials is a big part of our channel business. And yeah, now sort of heading up the sales team, particularly around the small to medium business size. And yeah, here we are this afternoon, welcoming you all and hoping you're going to learn lots about the upcoming changes to Cyber Essentials from the 28th of April, I believe. So I'll pass you to Ashley Brett. He is one of our best CE advisors. So over to you, Ashley. Please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Sophie. It's nice to see so many of you sign up. So thanks for joining today. So I've worked at IT governance for the last 2 years now, mainly working in Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus, with a bit of ISO 27001 as well. So yeah, I won't tell you too much more about myself, and I'll pass you over to my colleague Adam.
Thank you, Ash. Adam, are you there?
Hello, good afternoon all. My name is Adam Siemens. I'm the Head of Information Security for what was GRCI Group and is now GRC Solutions. I oversee all of our internal technical operations here from an information security point of view. I have a background of IT and information security, working within the industry for 15 years and the past 7 years here.
Perfect. Thank you, Adam. So we're definitely in safe hands this afternoon with two of our really good SMEs on the call. So hopefully it should be a good one. Looking forward to it. So a little bit about us then. So just to give you a quick summary for those of you who don't know who we are, we provide end-to-end support. So particularly around the kind of obviously the Cyber Essentials area, and we do pen testing consultancy and some other comprehensive bespoke solutions as well. We are all over the world, so we have clients dotted all over the globe. So wherever you are listening to this, the chances are we can help you. Future-proof strategies. We're committed to helping clients stay ahead of emerging threats and regulatory changes. I think AI is certainly one of our newest future-proof strategies, so heading into the AI world. And we also brand ourselves as a one-stop shop. So if you go onto our website, you'll see everything from books, tools, through to some legal products. We have GDPR. We have a whole sort of department who are dedicated to data privacy. So anything you need, the chances are we will do it. So there we are, one-stop shop, everything to do with your ITG needs. Here's a little bit about our services. So as I've just mentioned, we have cybersecurity services, so vulnerability management, compliance support. Again, these slides will be available after the presentation or the webinar, so you will be able to click on these links and find out a little bit more. Risk management solutions, we have practical frameworks and to identify, assess and manage organisational risks. We have data privacy expertise, as I've just mentioned, so guidance to meeting obligations under GDPR. And last but not least, our ISO 27001 support, and that's probably how most of you know us. It's our flagship product. It's how we were born 20 odd years ago. So lots of clients coming to us for 27001 support as well. A little bit of housekeeping for all of you this afternoon. Is possibly our biggest attended webinar ever. So welcome to all of you. Just a quick reminder, you are all on mute during this session. We do have a Q&A section at the end. We will try and run this webinar for about an hour. That will include sort of half an hour to 40 minutes of presentation, and then we'll allow sort of 15 minutes at the end for some questions. What you'll need to do is submit them in the chat function. So if you, any point in this presentation, if you submit your questions, I'll be able to see them and we'll be able to get them answered for you at the end. Anything we don't come to, we will try and follow up with you afterwards. And as I just mentioned, we will send you a copy of these slides and a recording after the webinar has finished. You can also watch it on YouTube as well, so you definitely won't be missing out. So what are we covering today? So the whole objective of this webinar is to go through with you the changes in the Cyber Essentials scheme. It's what's coming. So from April the 28th, we're going to go through the updates. Ash is going to talk us through what's changing and the practical steps that we can make, along with some certification and, like I've just said, a live Q&A at the end for you all to get involved. Before we start, I'm going to get you all interactive. Don't want anybody dozing off in this sort of mid-afternoon slot. So if you can, we've got a poll coming up, and the question is, I need you all to answer, where does your organisation currently, sorry, I've just clicked on my screen, currently stand with Cyber Essentials certification? So there's 4 answers to choose from. We are already certified and need to renew. We are in the process of getting certified. We plan to get certified within the next 12 months, or we are exploring but have no immediate plans. If you can cast your votes, we would appreciate it. Just looking at the results coming in now. So the highest so far, the one winning is we're already certified and need to renew. So yeah, this webinar seems to be very timely. So there we go, 64% of you saying that you're already certified and need to renew. Thank you, everybody. That poll has now closed. We shall move on. Right, another poll just before we get started. It's just starting now. So again, fingers on the buzzers. How do the upcoming April 2025 Cyber Essentials changes affect your organisation? So you can choose from, we must update our existing certification to remain compliant. We need to get certified for the first time to meet client or security requirements. We're not sure how the changes impact us, but want to understand them, or the changes don't directly affect us. So you can see all your answers coming in for the second poll of this webinar, and the highest category is we're not sure how the changes impact us, but we want to understand them. So again, exactly the reason why you've logged onto this webinar, which is perfect. We'll just let you finish those, and the poll is just about to close. Thank you so much. Right, hopefully that woke you up a little bit. Now we are going to skip through to the presentation. I'll hand over to Ashley, our CE expert, and he's going to talk you through what is Cyber Essentials. Over to you, Ash.
Yeah, thank you for that, Sophie. Yeah, so from the poll, I can see most of you are certified with Cyber Essentials, which is great to see. But yeah, before I get to the changes, I'm just going to quickly go through what is Cyber Essentials and why your organization should look into being certified. So it's a UK government-backed scheme which is aimed to protect against the most common types of cyber threats. So it's quite a simple standard compared to ISO 27001, which is a lot more sort of comprehensive, covers a wider range of areas. So it looks at the 5 main controls, so firewalls, secure configuration, user access control, malware protection, and patch management. Yep, on to the next slide.
Perfect.
So yeah, these are the 2 main benefits of achieving Cyber Essentials. So you'll see this statistic quite a lot about that it protects against 80% of the most common cyber threats. So it's usually the most basic things that can help keep your organization secure, such as having a software firewall enabled on devices. Whereas, yeah, it doesn't sort of look into really complex attacks, which might be uncovered from having something more advanced like a penetration test taken place. Yeah, on to the next slide. So recently, the government carried out an impact evaluation to sort of see how successful Cyber Essentials has been. In this impact evaluation, there were 606 surveyed responses. So uncovered some interesting statistics, as you can see here. So 82% found by having Cyber Essentials, they were confident in the technical controls they had in place. 85% said by having Cyber Essentials, it enhanced their cyber awareness throughout the organization. So that's really good to see. And by having it, 76% said there's a promotion of additional security measures. So they probably looked into other options as well after having it, if there's further controls they could add, as it just looks at the basic controls. So there might be more they can look into after. And also it gives supply chain assurance. So 33% of contracts in the past year mandated Cyber Essentials certification. Recently, IASME have released a supply chain tool as well that I'd advise you look into. It could be useful for seeing who else you work with and if they have if they've achieved Cyber Essentials. It can also give commercial advantages. So having Cyber Essentials can give you that competitive edge against other organizations. So 69% of organizations notice this. Okay, yeah, this is just a breakdown between Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus. So Cyber Essentials is a much sort of cheaper option than Cyber Essentials Plus to start with. Ranges from £420 up to £775. So with Cyber Essentials, it's a questionnaire that you fill in. So yeah, I'd advise answering it as truthfully as you can, because if you move on to Cyber Essentials Plus, that's when we sort of check what you've put on the questionnaire is accurate, and it'll be more sort of technical tests that take place. And with that, it's a lot more expensive as well. It will usually be over £2,000. So with Cyber Essentials Plus, you need to achieve it 3 months after you've achieved Cyber Essentials. So within that time, you need to be reaching out to your assessor and making sure you're booked in within those 3 months. You have to have passed it.
Thanks, Ash. That's perfect. So we're now moving into what's new. So here we go from April. Over to you.
Yep. So now we're going over to the changes. So yeah, if you could just go on to the next slide, I'll go through the first change. So here's a summary of the changes first of all. So the standard is changing from Montpellier to Willow standard. So any applications before the 28th of April will still be on the old Montpellier standard, but if you're going for Cyber Essentials after the 28th, it will be on the new standard, Willow. So usually IASME update the standard every couple of years or so, or if something sort of major takes place, they might look to change standards earlier. Yeah, usually every few years. So yeah, that's the summary of the changes below, which I'll run through on the next slide.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the first one is the inclusion of remote workers. So previously on Montpellier, so this is just a terminology change really. They were referred to as home workers. So now this has been changed to remote workers. So it's a more all-encompassing umbrella term that's going to be used to avoid any confusion. I think this is mainly from a security standpoint. It doesn't matter whether they work from home or in another location, such as a hotel or cafe. They need to be included within the scope. So it's to avoid any confusion there. So this just affects the A2.71, which comes under the scope of the assessment. Yeah, on to you, Adam, who's going to say a bit more around that.
Thanks, Ash. So one of the key shifts under Willow is this explicit inclusion of remote working devices. This will hit a lot of organizations, especially those who are on a kind of a hybrid or remote working sort of setup. If a device connects to your organization's data or services over the internet, whether it's a company laptop or a personal iPad, it's in scope. And that's really key to understand. So that doesn't matter if they're dialing in once a week or working full time from home. If it touches your IT systems, they're covered by this control. So you need to look at implementing that. That also includes, as I said before, BYOD or personal devices, but BYOD, bring your own device. And while BYOD isn't new, under Willow, the level of scrutiny for this has increased. So you'll need to demonstrate that each remote device meets the same requirements you'd apply as to your office-based computers and your sort of company computers as well. And that includes things like the patching, the anti-malware, account control, and all those kind of other parts that are covered in the standard already. Now, home routers are a frequent question that we get. Unless your organization provides the router, it is considered out of scope, which means you must show the device itself has a software firewall. So that's the actual end user device, the laptop or computer. And there are no exceptions for that. And if you're using a corporate VPN, we need to make sure that all traffic is routed back through a centrally managed firewall. So the VPN traffic goes through, and then that VPN itself is behind the firewall. You need to be able to explain that to an assessor and provide evidence. So like any kind of audit, they're going to ask you, evidence that for me. And they need to take that away and take that to IASME. So if it's ever brought up, there's clear evidence of that happening. You can do that via a screenshot of your VPN config or firewall rules, or perhaps a policy statement. So in short, if it's remote and it's used to do a job within your business, it's your problem. The assessor will want to know how you manage it. My best advice, keep a list of those remote devices, make sure they're managed or at least monitored, and don't assume anything is out of scope just because it's not on your office network. So, right, let's move on to one of the newer areas, authentication.
Great, thanks, Adam. So one of the new compliant ways of incorporating authentication is using passwordless authentication. It's a relatively new form of authentication that's being used worldwide now. It's using another factor to establish user identity. So it could be a physical token, for example. That could be one compliant way. So sort of modernizing it to meet the changing world now, with other forms of authentication being widely available. So the questions this applies to is under A4.3, which is firewalls, A5.5, which is secure configuration, and A7.10, which is user access control. I'll go over to you, Adam, to expand upon that.
No worries. So this is one of the more forward-thinking additions in Willow. So we're now seeing within the industry, and specifically from the NCSC and other government agencies, guidance around passwordless authentication. This covers methods, as kind of Ashley touched on, where we've got Face ID. So if you've implemented Windows Hello, where it recognizes your face, or something similar to what your iPhone or your Android device does to authenticate you. Traditional push notifications, traditional smart cards, hardware tokens, and even the kind of QR-based logins that you're starting to see as well. So essentially anything that authenticates without relying on a traditional password is covered by the passwordless sort of terminology. Now, to be clear, it's not a hard requirement in most cases. You're not going to fail your assessment just because you're still using a username and password and MFA. But if you've rolled out passwordless options, especially Microsoft 365, or enforcing it with conditional access policies, it's well worth flagging. It shows to the assessor that your business has got a mature, forward-thinking approach. It gives the assessor something positive to point out, particularly about your infrastructure and how you're implementing the controls. And it's especially useful if you've got any kind of controls that are slightly on the fence, and you want to kind of like say, well, we are definitely putting the effort into modernizing our kind of risk mitigation or authentication in there. In terms of evidence, it could be as simple as a screenshot showing the conditional access policy, if that's what you've got in there, or your Microsoft AD or Entra kind of policies that are setting. So that's your logins for your user device settings as well, showing things like your biometrics and the authentication is enabled. So the key here, if you're doing something good like this under the terms of security, show it off. Passwordless is optional, but it's one of those areas where going above the baseline can also, earn you a bit of goodwill and show that you're really working hard towards meeting the standard and going further on. So right, next up, let's talk about how the scheme now defines vulnerability fixes, because it's not just about patching anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's changed now, so there's more clarity now with a new term that's being used, vulnerability fixes. So before it was just updates, but the change of terminology covers other areas such as registry fixes, configurational changes, script and vendor approved fixes. So the change in this term in Cyber Essentials will also flow down to Cyber Essentials Plus, which I'll come to. So yeah, really the aim of this is to make sure that if there is a fix in place, then that fix has been applied. I know a lot of certification bodies purely look at updates. At ITG, we have really been looking. We've taken the approach to look at all vulnerabilities, but it wasn't made clear by ASME. And with this change in terminology, now that's clear to all certification bodies that every fix needs to be applied if there's one available, regardless of the type of fix. Thanks, Bob. I think it's a really good change. We've always done it at ITG, but other certification bodies had different sort of opinions on whether it should or should not be done. So what does this apply to? So this is most of the questions under the category security update management. So A6.1, A6.2, 6.3, 6.4, 6.42, 6.5, 6.52, and A6.6. But these slides are going to be shared, so feel free to check back on that. I'll let Adam expand upon that a bit.
Yeah, so this is almost a clarification, but at the same time, it does feel like it's a change that could seem minor on paper, but it could catch some people out. So obviously, vulnerability management has real world impact, and that's what the standard is trying to address. And obviously, we need to be compliant and evidencing that. So under Willow, the requirement is no longer just about patching in the traditional sense. It now talks about vulnerability fixes, whether that includes things like, as Ash said, registry changes, config tweaks, or vendor provided scripts, particularly with these kind of immediate 0-day situations we get. While there is some time on there, if there is a known vulnerability and it's in the news, it's really great that you can show that we're assessing these things and we are putting in the fixes as soon as possible. The key rule here is if a vulnerability is known and a fix is available, whether it's a patch or not, it must be applied within 14 days. And if there's no patch and you're using a mitigation of some sort, it needs to be documented and traceable. So you've got to have it evidenced. You've got to have it, this is the reason for applying it. This can be across all operating systems, applications, network devices, and even firmwares as well. So it's worth reviewing your vulnerability management processes and making sure that you're capturing all types of fixes, not just relying on kind of Windows Update to kind of catch some of those things. In terms of evidence, that might mean screenshots again, documentation of the configuration change, perhaps if you've got a service desk, if you're an MSP, if you've got a ticket or something like that, or an internal service desk, documenting it in there. Same for a registry tweak or emails from a vendor confirming that the workaround is a valid mitigation. So the bottom line is, if you're fixing a known issue, show that you've done it and back it up with something that you'd be happy to hand to an assessor as evidence. Over to you, Ash.
Yep, thanks, Adam. So I've summarized all the Cyber Essentials Plus changes on one page. There isn't too many changes to the actual assessment itself. it's more we're providing additional evidence that what you've put in the CE matches what's in scope of the CE plus. So they've added scope and subset verification. So we need to verify by technical means that the scope of what you put in the CE matches the CE plus. So we need to make sure what's being tested. We need to make sure what you put in your Cyber Essentials questionnaire is actually what's being tested in the Cyber Essentials plus. So if you have subsets, listed in the Cyber Essentials, we need to do some means of technical verification to make sure the devices you've said are on that particular subset. IASME have basically said that it's up to us to decide how we verify this. How we verify this. So we're not sure exactly what approach we're going to take yet at ITG as to how we do it, but it could be inspecting a firewall or switch access control list. It could be performing a host discovery scan between the VLANs, or it could simply be just showing us a network diagram. But each certification body is likely going to do this differently. We should be getting a document out soon sort of describing how we're going to meet this requirement internally and what our process is going to be. As I said before, the term vulnerability fixes is also going to apply to Cyber Essentials Plus. We've taken this approach anyway in the past, but because of the clarity provided with the new standard, now it's clear that every vulnerability has to be fixed, regardless of the type of vulnerability it is. That applies to everything above a CVSS 3.1 score of above 7. So regardless of whether it's a configurational change, an update, some sort of manual steps you need to take, it has to be fixed if it's above that score. Another big change is the random sampling. So this has to be selected by the assessor no earlier than 72 hours prior to the test being carried out. So I'll go on to the reasons behind this change in the next slide. So the reasons behind these changes, why are these changes taking place? So the first one with passwordless authentication is it's a big push from the NCSC. That's the National Cybersecurity Centre. They influence a lot of the decisions that IASME make. Because it's becoming a much more common means for authentication, it's something that they really want incorporated into the scheme. So home workers coming under the same umbrella term. Having remote workers used as the umbrella term also incorporates home workers. So just that change means that all risks are considered, nothing's sort of being excluded, everything's being covered. So it might be something to look at in your own sort of internal documentation, maybe using the term remote workers instead of home workers if you have a policy around that. But the last change is that all vulnerabilities should be fixed regardless of the type. So it's not just making sure updates are applied, it's any type of fix available has to be applied. So the reason for the C+ changes. So the reason for the technical verification of what you've put in the CE, the main reason for that is to ensure that what you've put in the Cyber Essentials application is the same as what's going to be tested in Cyber Essentials Plus. So it basically makes sure it's accurate what you've put. There's no room for sort of error or it being on a different subset, a different VLAN. It has to be on the sort of VLANs that you've stated in the Cyber Essentials application. So it creates for a fairer test as well. So with the random sampling being no earlier than 72 hours, it means it avoids the risk of pre-selected devices being used. So you can't have devices that are already CE certified. Like we expect to see at least some vulnerabilities in those devices. It's actually more suspicious when a device is completely clean, when we see it straight away, and that really never happens. But I imagine it's going to cause some issues with, sorry, not issues, but it's going to require you to have good communication with the certification body, as that gives you a lot less time to prepare. So it's going to be a lot more sort of back and forth between you and the assessor. I'll go on to that in the next slide. But yeah, the reason for the C+ change, yeah, I think I covered that in the last one, is to make sure everything's being fixed. Yeah, it doesn't matter on the type of vulnerability. If it's above a CVSS score of 7, that has to be fixed. Yeah, ready for next slide. Oh yeah, over to you, Adam.
No worries. So sort of thinking about what we need to be getting ready for kind of implementations and what's on the radar in the kind of the 2025, 2026 kind of financial sort of period. So to wrap up the main changes, and it's worth zooming out a little bit and thinking beyond those individual controls and what does, you know, Willow mean for us in the coming future, and what should we be planning for. So one of the big ones is going to be the end of life for Windows 10, which reaches its end of life in October 2025. So that means no more free security updates. That's the key thing. If you're still running Windows 10 devices after that date, they'll need to be upgraded to Windows 11 or something else, or covered by an extended security update. And those aren't cheap. So now's the time to plan your mitigation or budget for that extended security cover. And that goes the same for all operating systems. However, obviously, if your entire estate is running Windows 10, that's a big job. So it's something that we need to be keeping in mind. Second, Willow makes it really clear that unsupported software or hardware equals non-compliance. So it's smart to align your infrastructure lifecycle with that reality. If it's going to go out of vendor support in the next 12 months, factor it out and plan to replace it if you can. You'll also want to budget properly, not just for the obvious stuff like new devices, but also for things like vulnerability scanning tools and cloud endpoint security, MFA rollouts. These are often needed to hit the standard properly, especially if you're aiming for the plus version of the standard. So if you're new and you're thinking about getting it, check what those controls are, see if there's anything that you need to be budgeting to implement to meet those. On the cloud topic in general, just remember that you're still responsible for your controls in the cloud. So even if your provider does some of the heavy lifting, so whether it's Microsoft 365 or your web hosting platform, you need to make sure it's configured securely and that you can explain it to an assessor. They're not going to say, oh, great, Microsoft are taking care of this. They're going to say, how have you implemented MFA within M365? And we're also seeing a shift in expectations from IASME. So assessors now want clearer evidence, screenshots, config exports, change logs. It doesn't need to be really heavy, but it needs to show that you've actually done what you're saying you're doing. And finally, I'd say it's time to start thinking about zero trust if you're not already. It's not a requirement yet, so don't panic, but it's clear this is where things are going. And remember, this is a baseline standard, so it's always moving up to get everyone on the same page. The more you reduce implicit trust and enforce authentication and access controls, the better shape you're going to be in whenever it does get implemented into the standard. Yeah, and that's it from me.
Thank you so much, Adam and Ashley. That was brilliant. We are going to move into another poll now. Just before we do, thank you to everybody who, by the way, who has submitted questions. The panel is kicking off. We've got lots of questions coming in, both rapidly being assigned to Ashley and to Adam as we speak. So please do keep them coming. Some really, really good stuff in there, which is excellent. And of course, thank you to all of you already who have used the reaction buttons on your control panel. Keep using them. It's really nice to see everybody interacting with this webinar. So, like I've just said, we have another poll coming up. This is our third of the day. The question I need you to all answer is, how prepared is your organisation for the new Cyber Essentials requirements? You've got 4 answers here. So if you can start casting your votes. The first one is, we're fully prepared and confident that we meet the new requirements, which is fantastic. Second is, we're somewhat prepared. Third is, we're not prepared at all. And the fourth is, we're unsure and need an assessment to determine next steps. Just while you're answering that, I did see a question pop in the chat, which was around, could they have some contact details for a Cyber Essentials sort of expert? I do indeed run the Cyber Essentials sales team, and I'm more than happy to put you in touch with the right person for information, quotes, etc. So by all means, do drop me an email. I'm Sophie Sayer, IT Governance, or Sayer, sorry, at itgovernance.co.uk. Okay, we're just about to close the poll, and I can see that the most commonly answered question was, we're somewhat prepared. So yeah, 46% of you are somewhat prepared. So that's good. That's really, really good. So that's just closed now. We shall move on. We're doing well for time. Okay, so I'm going to hand you back to Ashley, who's going to talk about practical steps on how to align your organisation. Over to you, Ash.
Yeah, thanks, Sophie. Yeah, just put together some practical steps of things you could do to help you prepare for the new Willow standard. So with the Cyber Essentials Basic, I'd advise looking at your internal documentation and possibly aligning the new terminology to meet your own requirements in the standards and policies you have internally. So yeah, it's going to help you achieve Cyber Essentials that way if you're already on the same page. I'd advise familiarizing yourself with the new questions. You can always ask your certification body if you're unsure on anything. Yeah, customers reach out to me daily by email or over Teams asking me questions of anything they're unsure of, and I'm always I'm happy to get back as soon as I can. So Cyber Essentials Plus, with the new Cyber Essentials Plus changes, as I said before, you're going to need more communication with the assessor, as with the random sampling. You're only going to have 3 days before the assessment takes place after the devices have been selected. So it's going to be sort of a lot of back and forth in between those 3 days. So make sure you're proactively reaching out, making sure you're clear on what's required of you for the day of the test. And yeah, also find out how your certification body is going to meet the new Cyber Essentials Plus requirements. So as I said before, that's something we're working on internally, creating a document that we're going to be sending out to customers. It's going to say how we're going to do the new 72-hour random sampling, how that's going to be carried out, and how we're going to get the technical evidence that what you've put in the Cyber Essentials scope meets what we're assessing in the Cyber Essentials Plus. So yeah, we're still currently working on how we're going to do that. But yeah, definitely reach out to your certification body, hopefully us, on how they're going to be doing things.
Definitely us, Ashley, for sure.
Yeah, definitely us.
I'm just picking up a question here. Apparently there's a couple of people that couldn't get into the webinar this afternoon. The question is this being recorded? Absolutely, this is being recorded, so we will be able to share it with you at the end. Okay, Ash, I believe this is also your slide.
Yep, it is. Thank you, Sophie. So this is just a quick sort of quick run through of the timeline from where it starts to where it ends, and you get your certification hopefully. So after you purchase a Cyber Essentials package with us, you have up to 6 months to complete Cyber Essentials. So you only have 2 business days to submit your second attempt. If for some reason you fail after the first attempt. So if you complete Cyber Essentials and you've got your certification, you then have up to 3 months to complete Cyber Essentials Plus. So your certificates have a 12-month expiry date. So that's separate for the Cyber Essentials and the Cyber Essentials Plus. So that's something to be aware of. Yeah, ready for the next slide.
Essential certification strategies to streamline compliance and reduce certification challenges. Adam, I think
Over
it's
to you,
not
Adam.
you.
Okay, so why choose IT governance as your Cyber Essentials partner? So expertise, we've issued more than 10,000 certificates, and we've been a certificate body for the past 10 years. So we've got a history with this. We're used to delivering it. End-to-end support, we deliver all technical tests and assessments conducted by people like our Ashley here. They're all experienced, qualified technical testers. Unrivaled expertise, having led ISO 27001 implementations since the inception of the standard. We have the knowledge and insight to help you take your information security and your cyber security to the next steps, whether that be Cyber Essentials or beyond. One-stop shop, as Sophie touched on at the beginning of it, we provide all the tools and resources needed to achieve certification at both the levels of Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus, the scheme, and tailored solutions. Our fixed price bundles provide expert support and compliance tools at an affordable rate. Credentials. Our consultants are highly experienced in delivering Cyber Essentials Plus and Cyber Essentials, and our consultants are well versed in a wide range of different topics, whether that be data privacy, technical security, and dealing with a range of clients globally.
Okay, so thank you, Adam. I think I need you on the sales team. That was an excellent summary. How can we help? So how IT Governance Cyber Essentials Solutions can help you achieve certification. And I think Ashley's going to talk us through these. Over to you, Ash.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so with the basic certification, you get free cyber insurance for up to £25,001. It's very specific, but we also offer other packages such as Get a Little Help and Get a Lot of Help. Sorry. With Get a Little Help, you get up to 2 hours support. So it kind of depends on your organization and how much experience you have with Cyber Essentials as to what package you would choose. Typically, Get a Little Help is customers that have some experience, but they have some sort of maybe complicated infrastructure, and they need certain they need to assess certain questions about whether what they have in place meets the requirements. But it's usually sort of quite simple questions. It could be that they've not done it in a while and just want to have that assurance that they've got some support. But Get a Lot of Help is usually for bigger organizations, as it comes at a higher cost, where they've got sort of dozens of different servers running different operating systems. So they need to have sort of multiple chats with the assessor before the test to make sure they're sort of ready for the day of testing. So yeah, it depends on your organization really, but it's definitely worth sort of looking into what option would suit you the best. So there's different links attached to the slide for you to look into that.
Thanks, Ash. Yeah, just to kind of add to that, the Get a Little Help and Get a Lot of Help packages are very popular. The kind of wraparound consultancy that we offer to our Cyber Essentials definitely does kind of give us some of the edge over some of the other CBs out there. So it's definitely worth inquiring. As Ash said, do click the buttons at the bottom of the screen once you have the slides. Okay, Ashley, these are our products. Over to you.
Yeah, these are just links to the products. Just to expand upon it as well, when you choose one of the packages, Get a Little Help or Get a Lot of Help, you have the same assessor throughout the whole process. So we find customers find that very useful from going for the Cyber Essentials to Cyber Essentials Plus. Sometimes assessors view things differently, so being on the sort of same page and understanding things from the questionnaire in the basic to Cyber Essentials Plus can sort of make it a lot more streamlined and straightforward. And yeah, the customer understands where things are and there's not any sort of random changes or questions being thrown at them about something. So yeah, I found customers find that very useful.
Perfect. And there is some costings here as well. I know we are running an offer for this webinar for 10% off, but Ash, I don't know if you want to talk us through some of these pricings.
Yeah, so for the basic certification, it will start from £2,055 plus VAT, and then Get a Little Help will be £2,355 plus VAT. Get a Lot of Help will be £3,055 plus VAT. So the consultancy support with Get a Lot of Help, I believe is usually, I'm not sure why it says 1 day, but that needs to be changed. I believe it's 7 hours. But that, I would say that's plenty of enough time, and it's very unlikely a customer would go over 7 hours. But yeah, it really depends on the organization and what your needs are, how experienced you are with Cyber Essentials. Maybe if you're a new customer, you've never done Cyber Essentials before, and you're quite a small organization, it might be worth going for Get a Little Help. Whereas if you're a really large organization, have lots of money, have loads of different servers, then Get a Lot of Help would maybe be more beneficial.
And Ash, this is your chance to shine and do your sales pitch. Here you go. Over to you.
Yeah. So at IT Governance, I'm also a product evangelist. So you'll find me posting regular content on LinkedIn, obviously cybersecurity related, and around the services we offer at IT Governance. So it'd be great if you could follow me on LinkedIn. You can scan the barcode there, and that should hopefully take you there.
Yeah,
And also we're
hopefully.
offering, as Sophie said, we're offering up to 10%, I believe, on CE plus on CE and C plus at the moment. If you use the code CE10OFF, if you contact us using that email, the Cyber Essential support one, and if you ask about the discount, we can send you a link to where you can redeem the package with the code as well.
That's perfect. That's more streamlined than me saying my email address, Ash. So well done.
Yeah, thank you.
I think as I mentioned at the top of this webinar, we're just going through a rebrand. So my email address has just changed. So possibly why it wasn't quite as smooth as it could have been. But anyway, yeah, Ashley's contact details are on the screen now. So do pop a message in there if you need any help. Okay, I hope you're all still with us. We've just got a few minutes left. I'm just going to run our fourth and final poll of the day before we run into our Q&A session. So here we go. Would you like a free consultation on how we can help you achieve or maintain Cyber Essentials certification? So here we go. You can either click yes, maybe, or no. Nice and easy. We'll just run that for a few more seconds. I'll just have a little browse over some of these questions. Some nice familiar names in there. So yeah, hello to you all and thank you for joining this afternoon. Lots of channel partners in there. Yeah, nice friendly faces, which is good. Okay, so just running that poll now, going back to have a look to see what the results are. Sort of most of you, well, actually quite a nice even split. So some of you may require some more details on Cyber Essentials, some of you handling internally and some of you wanting a free consultation. Okay, that poll has closed. Thank you very much. That's really interesting. Okie doke, so we are going to move to the questions. This is where it gets fun. So thank you again. I've never seen so many questions in a webinar, so it's good to see that you're all nice and engaged. I don't know what order to start in, but I'll start from the top. The first one's for you, Ash, so hopefully you're ready for this. It's regarding, would Microsoft Defender software firewall on personal devices count? Can you see that question? Are you able to answer it for us?
Yeah. Simply put, yes. Yeah, as long as there's firewall, some form of firewall on the device, it can be as simple as Microsoft Defender. It doesn't have to be something super fancy. But yeah, Microsoft Defender would be compliant.
Perfect. That was nice and easy. Next one for
Yeah,
you, Ash, to stay off mute. What's their definition of a VPN as zero trust connections? So I guess their definition,
I'll probably pass that one on to Adam.
Oh,
Yeah,
Adam.
there's a number of VPN questions. I'm trying to like scroll through and sort of get something a bit concise in my head. So I think the clear thing here is that Cyber Essentials doesn't spell out word for word, but its intention is clear. If you're using a corporate VPN, all traffic to the organization's systems need to be subject to your firewall controls. So whether that's a physical cloud, virtual firewall. So while split tunneling isn't explicitly banned, it's hard to justify unless you've got a really solid setup. Full tunneling is the safest route, and it's the one most likely to get you through the assessment without any kind of awkward questions. If you do allow split tunneling, you need to be able to show that traffic to the business service is still protected and controlled, which that could get a bit messy from an evidence point of view. So in short, yes, route VPN traffic through your firewall unless you've got a very good reason not to, and the evidence backs it up. So there's a few in here that are all around sort of VPN traffic. So I'll maybe take some of those later and go through the specifics.
Yeah, thanks, Adam.
Yeah,
Absolutely right. There's loads on split tunneling questions. So yeah, we'll leave you to follow those up separately if that's okay. I'll move on to the next one. So how does the random selection for CE Plus audit work in practice? Ash, do you want to take that one?
That is a good question. It's something we're currently discussing how we're going to approach it as well, as it does, it is going to change things drastically. It's going to sort of give you a lot less time before the assessment begins after we've selected the devices. So it does create for a more accurate assessment, but it's still something we're finalizing internally how we're going to approach it. So yeah, it still keeps customers happy as well, and it's still possible to have everything ready before the testing day. Often I choose devices. So a requirement as an assessor is I need to randomly select what devices I'm testing. So often there's a lot of back and forth with the customer after I've selected a device that one's not available. I need to switch it out for another device. So we're still sort of deciding how we can do that within the 72 hours, but we're going to be sending out a document to customers around how we're going to be doing that to meet the requirement. And I imagine other certification bodies will be doing a similar thing, but everybody's going to sort of approach it differently, I imagine. So so basically we're not 100% sure at the moment, but we are discussing that internally, and we're going to be getting something sent out soon.
Perfect. Thank you, Ash. Do you provide any form of prerequisite document that can be used? Do we provide that?
Probably need more clarity or a prerequisite document for what exactly for the. So before, if you're referring to the Cyber Essentials Plus, we have a pre-engagement call with guidance on what's going to be included in the assessment. So I can briefly run everyone through that process. So before a Cyber Essentials Plus assessment is set up, we have a pre-engagement call. Sorry, before the assessment takes place, we have a pre-engagement call, usually a week beforehand, where we discuss through the testing day and what's going to take place. And we also send over a document that includes the different evidence that we'll be looking for, guide you through the vulnerability scans, user testing, etc. So I'm not sure if I've answered that correctly. Hopefully that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, I think that's very comprehensive. Thanks, Ash. That's perfect.
Thanks.
We are absolutely running out of time very fast here. We're definitely not going to get through all these questions. There's literally hundreds of them.
That's right. Don't worry, I'll be going through them all, and I'll make sure we get back to everybody.
Perfect. Yeah, lots of people saying thank you for a wonderful session. It's been really, really helpful. I'll just do one last one just before we close out. Again, it is, and thank you for all the reactions. It's nice to see those coming on the screen. Ash, will the sample size for devices remain the same as previous years?
Will these sample sizes remain the same? Yeah, these sample sizes aren't changing at all. It's just that the assessor needs to randomly select them. We've been randomly selecting them for a while now, but I know some certification bodies don't adopt this approach, and IASME are making it very clear that we need to be randomly selecting devices. But the actual sample sizes themselves stay the same. There's no change there.
Perfect. That's great. No, that's great. Lots of compliments for both you, Adam and Ashley, this afternoon. So well done to you both. Even our head of CE has written in to congratulate you on a fantastic webinar.
I can see her clapping along. Yeah.
It's always good to keep the boss happy, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we'll probably round it up there. We will get back to all of the questions. Thank you for all these lovely reactions. It definitely makes it worthwhile. We do run a whole webinar series, so it is worth checking on our website. We do run 2 or 3 of these a week, so it is worth just checking to see what's coming up next. I've just popped on the screen our contact details, so that's our email and phone and address there. So if anybody does need to get in contact, obviously we've shared Ashley's contact details and mine as well. So lots of ways to get in touch. We are all over social media too. But I think that's it for this afternoon. Thank you everybody for joining, and we hope to see you all soon. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks,
Bye-bye.
folks.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.